Are you one of the 1 in 5 Americans that have learn a new language on your bucket list? I do. And if you do too, make this the year that you finally check it off with Babbel. Babbel's the language app that makes grammar fun and is actually worth your time. Babbel has bite-sized lessons that can fit easily into your daily routine. Just 10 minutes a day is enough to start seeing real results. You can practice real-life conversation step by step. And Babbel's more than just lessons. They also have podcasts that talk about language secrets and also a look into local cultures. Now, I'm using Babbel to kind of learn a new language. I'll sometimes say, "Oh, I studied abroad in France just a few years ago." But I realize that was 23 years ago. So I have to relearn French as a new language, basically, and I'm going to use Babbel to do it. I'm going to listen and practice speaking. So, however you learn best, Babbel adapts to your style and keeps you motivated with a personalized learning plan, real-time feedback, and progress tracking. And here's a special limited time deal for our listeners. Right now, get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/HR Besties. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/HR Besties. Spelled BABBEL.com/HR Besties. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with Auto Quote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Ho, 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 besties, and welcome to our HR Besties holiday party. We are so thankful that you are here. 'Tis the season, right, for gratitude and appreciation. Shout out to all of y'all that have been listening, you're following. Thank you so, so much. We're coming up on the end of the year. Oh my gosh.
November and December. Whew, the worst.
November.
Right.
Although it's like yes-vember for me, as every month is.
Exactly. Because of your face.
My face. My face. Come one, come all. It's always a yes.
That's what she said. But yeah, it's wild because you're so stressed out from all the work stuff, right? And everyone needs to finish strong. Some people are just starting their goals. You forgot, right, what you promised in January. But it's also for so many of us like the funnest time of the year, like personally. I know Jamie and I love December, especially it's our birthday months, right? I mean, the holiday, oh gosh. So it's kind of torture in a way.
Yeah, like it's a lot of work.
It's a lot.
And it's a lot.
It's a lot.
I'm an extrovert, but I also need my introverted time. And December doesn't allow for that. You know what I mean? Because like every weekend, almost every night, there's something that you're doing. So by January, I'm like, I'm good. Like, I'll just stay in the house and not talk to anyone for
Just be depressed.
while.
There are very few emotions that a Hallmark or Netflix holiday movie, like on my couch in isolation, cannot at least temporarily, like really, maybe not long-term cure, but it feels good. Just watched Hot Frosty, which is
Magic scarf and a hot guy.
How did that happen? I know we had a big
dear.
debate. My daughter was like, "He's not that hot," and I was like, "Oh, I disagree." And I was like polling. I'm like, the girls say he is. So there.
Yeah, I don't think he's hot actually at all.
Oh, okay.
Wait, is this the one about the snowman?
Yes, he's.
Oh my God, I've seen memes about this.
I will not give a spoiler to Hot Frosty, to the surely Oscar-winning movie, but I will say this. I bet he gets a lot hotter when he starts fixing shit up around the house in the movie, because that will always, ratchet up that scale from a 1 to 10. Ooh, 2 more points there when he's handy around the house. So I will say there, reserve your judgment till you watch him in action.
Oh, right. He's good. You know what I mean? Come on.
Well, he's good, but I'll tell you this, is I cannot wait, because I found an account on Instagram, and that's not one of ours. Ours are I'd say ours are the three best, but like God, Jamie's got 7 accounts, so whatever. There's an account that has, it to me is like the Instagram equivalent of watching a Hallmark or Netflix movie. That if I'm ever like, ooh, I have a minute and just need an aperitif, and it is, I'm looking at Heartthrob Rob Anderson. And so his name is Rob Anderson. I shared it the other day on my Instagram and I got multiple messages from people that are like, oh my God, I'm now going down this rabbit hole. And so he has like some original content, but a lot of what he does is goes back to like Berenstain Bears books, TV shows, movies. Like he's going through every Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen movie and he goes through the plots. It is so funny. And so I need to know what he's going to say about Hot Frosty. That's it.
I don't know if I'll watch Hot Frosty, but I see it up there. I've seen the trailer a few times on the Netflix,
Yeah. I don't know if I'll partake.
Well, it's funny because, like different references. So we start watching it. Of course, my daughter's like, oh my God, that's the girl from Mean Girls. Because it's Lacey.
Yeah. She's in every Hallmark movie.
Right. She's like, look, it's Gretchen Wieners. Right. I'm like, oh, clearly we haven't watched enough Hallmark together because she's a repeat offender in these movies. And so you forget some of the things.
Okay. So Ashley, then you're a Hallmark movie watcher?
Oh, yeah. I mean, honestly, probably more Netflix than Hallmark if there's a difference. I'm just lazy and I don't pay for the Hallmark channel, but yeah.
Okay. Leigh, what about you? Do you watch the Hallmark movies?
No.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't even know if we have the Hallmark channel.
I'm open to it, but I just tend to, especially during the holidays, like I've already seen Home Alone 1 through 6 like 3 times. Like I just play them as noise, you know what I mean? And through the weekend and whatnot. I tend to return to like the same classic movies, like over and over.
Tell me you're not calling when they switched kids, like from Macaulay Culkin
they're terrible.
When his little brother too? In one of them?
Yeah, the first one.
But who then went on? I think that's the same little brother that went on to become Succession, to become
yes, exactly.
Who is really, that's his prime character. But like, do you rewatch like Home Alone 5, Leigh?
Which is horrific. Home Sweet Home Alone is okay. I mean, some of them, one of them is like filmed on someone's phone. Like it is like shaky, like it's terrible. The one with the thieves. Well, there's a couple with the thieves. I mean, they all with thieves, but it's the one. I don't know. They're terrible. Okay, they are horrific.
I don't want to be a humble brag here, but between Jamie recommending Lost, Leigh trying to defend Home Alone 5. I'm bringing Heartthrob Rob Anderson, and that seems like the only recommendation you can count on today, besties.
You got Hot Frosty.
Well, yeah, I'd like to know. Well, I'll put that in the thing to see what people think about it. Like, I'm not going to give it more than like a 6.4 out of 10, but I didn't mind watching it. I thought it was
now I'll watch
holiday
it.
Spirit.
Yeah, when we need that.
Do y'all have like a favorite holiday movie?
I like Home Alone too. There I go, back to the Home Alones. I love Love Actually, but it's probably something that Rob Anderson covered.
Probably.
That guy, because it really, how is that girl fat?
Oh God, don't even.
You know what I mean?
Like,
she's stunning. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just ridiculous. But that scene where they're kissing and the music and I just love it.
Yeah, that's a good one. That might be my favorite. Jamie?
I think The Santa Claus with Tim Allen, the first one. That's just such a good one.
I
love that one. I don't know. And I love Christmas Vacation. Mm-hmm. Like those are 2 movies I have to see in the month of December every year.
What about that Santa Claus 3?
Ooh,
with Jack Frost. I mean, that was shit.
Getch and the robot Santa. Ooh.
But I'm trying to get in the mood and spirit. I've been decorating. So that's my thing. I love to decorate everything. Yeah.
Leigh has shared photos of her front porch with us, and holy shit, it is absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
It's like this winter wonderland, like Candyland. Oh, it's magical.
HR Martha Stewart over here.
Yeah, it looks so good.
I just love that art and design bullshit. I can't help it,
But you have that nice handwriting, that nice teacher handwriting. I do think it all kind of goes together because but my handwriting is not great and my decorations do not look like that. I do, I get a good few blow up things, distract from the lack of skill, but it's a real talent. It's art.
I love it. No, I've been, I go to the Home Goods. Have you seen all those funny videos lately about the Home Goods and people going through the store? Oh my God.
Yes.
Love looking through the trash.
Yes. I saw one the other day. It was a couple, and she was like, I've always wanted a Santa pooping. And he goes, hold on, I have just the thing for you. And he like shows the Santa pooping. It's hilarious.
Do you ever wish that you had an HR legal bestie in your pocket? 650 is just that. Your trusted, always available ally for your employment law questions, minus the hefty price tag of a lawyer. Compliance may not be your favorite chore in HR, but it's important and it's hard. But 650 is here to make it easy. With 650, managing multi-state HR compliance is a breeze. Their tools help you to understand complex state laws and craft compliant documents effortlessly, but also keep everything up to date automatically. They have a comprehensive "What's the law in this state" library to a 50-state employee handbook builder. 650 turns compliance into convenience. So, HR pros juggling multi-state teams, simplify your compliance today. Visit 650.com/besties. That's SIXFIFTY.com/besties and discover how to stay ahead with 650's seamless solutions.
DSW, Designer Shoe Warehouse, is the one-stop shop for all your footwear needs. With sneakers, boots, and everything in between for every style, mood, and occasion, you'll definitely find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. DSW has what you need, but more importantly, they have what you didn't even know you wanted. You never know what you'll find at DSW. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or DSW.com.
Hey, it's Ashley. Did you know that there was a trial against SHRM last week? Of course, you're listening to this podcast, so you know that we've been covering this for months, that there was a trial last week in federal court in Denver against the Society for Human Resource Management, the self-proclaimed trusted authority in all things work, and the lawsuit was a racial discrimination and retaliation lawsuit brought by a former employee that SHRM had let go from employment over 5 years ago. Only now did it actually end up in trial. Now, first, it's a little weird to be recording this by myself. Normally, I have Leigh and Jamie by my side or by my screen, but it's the holidays, it's year-end, and it's hard to get everybody together. So we weren't going to record a whole new episode, but then the SHRM trial happened, and here we are. Now, let's go back to where we were, because as we were getting ready for trial, we talked about all sorts of things. The motions in limine, where, for example, SHRM asked the judge to bar any argument or evidence of SHRM as a model employer, because they didn't want the jury to get confused or think that there was a different legal standard, because SHRM is a human resources organization. And the judge had ruled against SHRM, saying, well, we're not going to bar it entirely because some of what SHRM does, that's integral to the actual lawsuit, especially if there were punitive damages, for example. But the parties had gone back and forth. We talked about the voir dire questions, SHRM wanting to ask questions to the jurors about their thoughts on the protests in the light of George Floyd's murder, or as they called it, George Floyd's death. The plaintiff requesting to the judge to ask questions about a recent jury verdict in Colorado federal court that was also for racial discrimination and retaliation, and that was a $20 million verdict. And so they wanted to ask that specific number to the jury to say, oh, there was recently a verdict for this. What do you think? The judge didn't allow the plaintiff's counsel to actually ask that and give that number. But we've been talking a lot about the prep up to the trial. Now, one thing is the trial was supposed to take place the week before Thanksgiving. And so Leigh and I were going, and we were trying to get Jamie to go too. But as sometimes happens, things ran long. And so the case that the judge had the week before this ran long. And so the judge had to move it to the week after Thanksgiving. So that's why we didn't end up actually going to the trial, which made us very sad, because in as much as I used to be a lawyer before I was a lawyer in HR, and I don't practice law anymore. So I haven't been in a courtroom in some time, but I definitely would have liked to have been in a courtroom to see everything that happened. But by now, I'll cut to the chase, you've likely seen that SHRM got a verdict from the jury for $11.5 million. But let's break down some of what you might not have seen. Now, first of all, this trial lasted for 5 days a week, which is what it expected. As the trial started, we were looking through every day on the PACER docket. There's what's called a minute entry. So you can kind of get a summary of what happened that day. like who testified as a witness, how long things took, when the jury was in and out of the courtroom, when they were selected. And so as the trial got started, it actually seemed to be taking a good amount of time. It took a lot of time for the plaintiff, for example, to be on the stand, being questioned. And so I thought the trial might actually get moved or take longer than the week expected. But then things started really moving along. And some of it was back and forth, like, okay, the people that came to testify, for example, the plaintiff, her former boss testified. So some of the normal characters, executives from SHRM. But Thursday is when things got really interesting. And when I saw the minute entry for Thursday, I ended up reaching out to the court reporter and purchasing the rough draft transcript so I could see what happened. Now, it was the rough draft, but in short, on Thursday I saw that there was a witness called to trial, and that witness was Johnny C. Taylor, the CEO of SHRM. Now, for those that have ever been involved in employment litigation, especially if you've ever been on the employer side like you're in HR, you might be familiar that most organizations literally fight tooth and nail to prevent the CEO from having their deposition taken or giving testimony in a trial in court. Like normally, all the effort is going into preventing that. Rarely do you see a CEO voluntarily show up for trial. And it's super interesting because SHRM actually had just recently been involved in another federal lawsuit. This was in federal court in Virginia, where SHRM was being sued by a former consultant that had worked on its CEO action for inclusion and diversity. SHRM had cut off the contract, stopped paying the consultant, so she brought the lawsuit about how much was to be paid. But as part of that, that plaintiff had issued a notice that she was going to depose Johnny C. Taylor, the CEO of SHRM. And SHRM went to the court to say, like, hey, no, halt this from happening. And so the day before the court hearing over whether Johnny C. Taylor would be required to testify, the parties actually settled. So while that one got resolved, that showed the much more normal course of action or common course of action to fight a CEO coming in. But Johnny C. Taylor showed up to this trial. He only testified for not that long on Thursday, but going through the transcript, it really seemed to show up to show his care for employees, saying that he had an open door policy, that the plaintiff had reached out to him in around June of 2020. He was on the phone and he pulled over his car. And so he was talking about how much he was open to those communications. He did interestingly talk about how the plaintiff had told him that she felt discriminated against. So that was a bit interesting part. But Johnny C. Taylor in the courtroom, I think Leigh and Jamie and I would have definitely been interested to see that. But other things that were going on, for example, the lawyers for SHRM, at the end of the plaintiffs putting on their witnesses, and then again when SHRM finished their witnesses, SHRM's lawyers had asked the court for what's called a judgment as a matter of law. The initials are JNOV, and I know that makes no sense, but this is an idea. It's kind of similar to a motion for summary judgment, basically saying that a jury shouldn't hear this case. And so with this type of motion, what the lawyers are saying is, hey, we've heard all of the evidence. And yeah, the jury's been sitting here and we appreciate them being here. They're not here when the parties are arguing this to the judge. But to say they haven't put on evidence of discrimination or retaliation, so everybody should go home and SHRM should win. SHRM filed a written motion on this. And in this motion, really was calling plaintiffs' work product shoddy. Again, when you have these lawsuits, it's already bad enough. But a lot of the back and forth language is just, basically what you'd expect in litigation. It's brutal. But the judge denied that. It's very common for parties to argue that. Again, this was a case we mentioned that because of the laws at stake, it's because the plaintiff brought this under Title VII, which is a federal law about discrimination, but also Section 1981, which is another federal law that's specific to race discrimination with unlimited caps. And so here, the plaintiff could have gotten an unlimited amount of money. So SHRM had every incentive to not have a jury hear this case. But it's very common for parties, defendants, to raise this type of motion. It's also very common for judges to deny it. And that's what happened here. But then, as the parties went towards opening and closing argument, there were a few things that happened. One in particular is there was some arguments about slides. Now, SHRM talked a lot about deadlines and how the plaintiff was terminated from employment in her role as a senior instructional designer, someone that designed courses for SHRM to sell to the public, because she missed 2 deadlines. But one thing that's come up and we've talked about this on the podcast, but that plaintiff is Egyptian Black. She had a white colleague who filed a sworn declaration, so sworn testimony, saying that she, this white colleague, had complained to multiple individuals in leadership and HR at SHRM that she believed that the plaintiff was being discriminated on the basis of her race. And in addition to that, she also says that she had missed deadlines and had no negative consequences. So unlike the plaintiff who lost her job, that this deadline missing wasn't even brought up on her performance review. And during the trial, she ended up bringing up something that didn't even come into her sworn declaration, where she told the court that she actually missed a deadline on purpose, ostensibly to be able to support the plaintiff and show that she was being treated more favorably than her. Now, in their closing argument, SHRM talked about that and seemed very disbelief about that. But it was wild to have a colleague show up and give this type of evidence. And again, this is the same colleague where SHRM, years after the fact, had found a recorded conversation of this colleague, and an executive at SHRM, where the colleague had described it one way in the sworn declaration, and SHRM said the tape was very different. And so while we haven't heard this tape, there was a lot going on about credibility. In addition to things about these slides and deadlines, because in the midst of all this argument about deadlines and missing projects, SHRM's lawyers were trying to get slides ready for their closing argument. And there was some debate between plaintiff's counsel and defense counsel about how timely those disclosures were. And kind of a funny thing that can relate to all of us is just before closing arguments, the lawyers for the parties had arguments outside of the jury's presence talking about these slides that the defense was supposed to turn over. And apparently they'd given these slides to plaintiff's counsel. And when plaintiff's counsel opened them up, there was no text visible. It was like all white. And defense counsel, one of the lawyers, was like, I was up all night trying to figure this out. And it turns out it was just a technical issue with their law firm, because SHRM's lawyers are with Littler Mendelsohn, one of the largest employer-side law firms in the world. And so apparently they have very, very strong technical aspects, but that kept converting their slides into an unreadable format for plaintiff's counsel. So anyway, that got resolved. But for those of us that have been in the middle of a busy project and then had technical issues get in the way, that's exactly what happened to SHRM's lawyers. Well, again, you all know how it ends with the verdict. But one really notable thing is that the parties had opening and closing, or they had closing arguments on the last day of the trial, and then the jury deliberated. The jury only deliberated for a number of hours, and only 3.5 hours after the jury had the case, they asked questions. And this can happen because the jury's in their room, they're deliberating, and if they have questions, they can submit this piece of paper and give it to a judge. And that's what happened. Now, the question that came about, I can only imagine what SHRM's lawyers felt when they saw this, because the piece of paper actually had 2 questions. One question was, who receives punitive damages? Which is an interesting question, because I guess you can imagine the question might be, who the heck actually gets this if we give punitive damages? They didn't say who they were wondering, but natural questions might be like, is it the plaintiff? Is it some government agency? The answer here is the plaintiff. But the second question is one that SHRM's lawyers, their stomachs must have dropped, because the question was, is there a formula or max value for punitive damages? And so generally, when a jury's asking a question like that 3.5 hours after they're deliberating, it doesn't send a very strong signal to the defense. It certainly tends to suggest that they're going to find for the plaintiffs and want to know just how much money they can give. And there wasn't an amount. In closing arguments, you kind of wonder, like, how do people come up with these verdicts? Both sides, like the SHRM's lawyers, for example, often they'll walk through the jury verdict form and say, you should write no for this. You should write no for this, meaning no, that the plaintiff has not met her burden. Of course, the plaintiff's lawyers are saying, yes, 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 you should find yes for this. And they were talking about, from a monetary perspective, how much the jury could possibly think or consider for compensatory and punitive damages. Compensatory damages are more of like the pain and suffering to make someone whole. Punitive damages are to prevent the organization, so here SHRM as the defendant, from taking this type of action to anybody else. So some of the amounts that SHRM's lawyers talked about, for example, is they raised what SHRM's revenue had been previously, which was just over $260 million in a year. And then this education group that the plaintiff was a part of, the year after she left, revenue was about $6 million. So saying that can be a place to start, for example, for some of these figures. And punitive damages, think about it. You want to send a message to SHRM. That's often the language is. And this is where plaintiff's counsel really hit on some of those points about SHRM's expertise. And just like we talked about on the podcast, a very natural thing to do would be to say their name, the Society for Human Resource Management. Again, their slogan is better workplaces, better world. And so the lawyers for the plaintiff were definitely bringing those type of things about, especially when they're talking about punitive damages. The message seemed to be heard loud and clear. And for all of this, so for over 5 years since this plaintiff was terminated from employment, and all of the court cases, the depositions, the filings, everything, it's pretty anticlimactic when it gets to the end of it. Basically, the jury comes in, they read the verdict, then they tell how much they found in compensatory, so $1.5 million in compensatory, and $10 million in punitive damages. The judge asks each individual juror, like, do you agree with this verdict? Like, yep, 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 yep. And then the parties are on their way. Now, the question somehow is, okay, what happens now? Like, first from the lawsuit. So this isn't one of those cases that, like, the plaintiff walked out of the courtroom with a giant check that said from SHRM to plaintiff $11.5 million. What happens is now SHRM has the choice of whether to appeal or not. And from their own statement, it certainly sounds like they're going to. If you've gone, and you can go on SHRM's website or on their LinkedIn, they've talked about that this case has no merit, none, as SHRM says it, and that they will appeal to the highest courts in the land. And in this case, the next level court is the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, because this is federal court. 10th Circuit makes up of Colorado, where this took place, and a bunch of other, say, like westernish states. And after that, the next appeal would be the U.S. Supreme Court. And when you appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, like, you have a right to appeal to the Court of Appeals, but the U.S. Supreme Court has to, like, agree whether to accept your case or not. And all of this can get drug out for years. And now what can happen in the meantime is, because the plaintiff has this verdict, then SHRM could be required to post a bond. So if you've ever heard of, like, a bail bondsman, where someone has $1 million bond, but they go to, like, a bail bond company and they're like, okay, pay a percentage of that, but if you don't show up for court, then we're going to keep your deposit. Then it's very similar that there's corporate bonds as well. So SHRM may be required to have the corporate bond, and that can do all sorts of things like accrue interest, but suffice to say is that this is likely to continue on from an appeals process. It's pretty quick. I think it's 30 days from my memory that SHRM has to have their notice of appeal, but then the back and forth happens, and the Court of Appeals could have people come in and argue. SHRM has to say specifically what aspect they're appealing on. But overall, the reaction has definitely been what people might imagine. Certainly those not in HR look at this and think an HR organization getting hit with this is quite ironic, to say the least. But there's been a lot of reaction about what's next for those that have things like SHRM certification. And we've talked about this a lot on the podcast. People certainly have different feelings about SHRM. My podcast co-hosts feel their own way for SHRM. But there have been a lot of discussions between local SHRM chapters. SHRM National, meaning like the organization here that was the defendant. There's that, and that's located in Alexandria, Virginia. There's also local chapters all over the place. Often those are volunteer run. Those provide a lot of resources to their members. And so we've heard from a lot of HR Besties listeners trying to figure out what to do with certification. And so all of us know, if you've ever gone through a professional certification, including those at SHRM and otherwise, you put on a lot of work for it. And so you also want it to be valuable and show those things. And so we've had a lot of conversations and seen a lot of comments about that. And you can look on LinkedIn for a lot of opinions on how people feel about this lawsuit. But I wanted to give the breakdown because we have been covering this and we've appreciated you all listening. I've tried to give the legalese aspects of it and give some of those peeks behind the scenes. But overall, this is a subject that we'll definitely be talking about. We'll keep talking about on our social media. But we've appreciated everybody tuning in. I've appreciated people listening, thanks to my pacer and now court transcript bills that are ever increasing. But we know this is one that is notable. And looking back on it, in the depositions, in some of those emails, there are definitely lessons to be learned for all employers, including SHRM. And I hope that employers remember that nobody's expected to be perfect. But just like I was quoted in the recent Business Insider article that just came out just before Thanksgiving about SHRM. But when you are the organization charging people for best practices, talking about yourself as the expert, it is important to know, just like the other aspects of leadership, when you're not perfect and you're not going to be, it is important to talk about that and talk candidly about that. So we'll see how SHRM moves on from here and how its local chapters work and all of that. But the trial has happened. The trial has ended, and now it's on to appeal.
I just really want to give a shout out to Ashley for staying on top of the SHRM trial and like literally spending hours and hours going through the court documents and spending money too. You know, like Pacer, every page she looks at costs money. So if you want to Venmo her some money, do it. Maybe I should start a GoFundMe. I don't know. But Ashley, you are the GOAT. We appreciate you.
I would say, am I shocked of the SHRM trial verdict? Not really, to be completely honest. I mean, when you read over all the information, and hopefully you've listened to our HR Besties episodes on it, SHRM was in the wrong. And that's what they got, okay? Also, I've gotten a few DMs asking why I haven't done a video to cover it. And truthfully, I just don't feel the need to, I guess. And why is because, I started Humorous Resources back in 2020 because truthfully, I was in HR Department 1 and I was so lonely and it was the pandemic and things were changing so quickly and I just felt kind of like I was losing my mind, but also I didn't feel like SHRM was providing me resources that I could actually use to keep my employees safe. And that's kind of where it grew for me. And I've been trolling SHRM ever since then. And so if you followed me for any bit of time, you know that. I actually had a comment today on a video that I made months ago about, wait, if not SHRM, who? And you guys, I'm still shocked that HR professionals don't know SHRM as an organization and just Google y'all. Also just go watch. I have a bunch of videos and a whole playlist on TikTok. But yeah, my thoughts on it is ever since Johnny C. Taylor became the CEO, I believe it was when 2017, and he created his own certification program, it has felt like a money hungry organization. And I just don't support it. I was once a member of SHRM, but I am no longer, and I haven't been for quite some time now. And I just feel like there are definitely other resources out there for HR professionals. And just because the largest one, or maybe the first one pops up is SHRM, doesn't mean it's the best. And I think this verdict clearly shows that. So thank you, Ashley, so much. We love you. We appreciate you.
Thanks for listening, besties.
When it comes to holiday gifting, I want to give people things that they really love. Beautiful, timeless pieces that they'll wear for years to come. And that's why I'm going with Quince. From Mongolian cashmere sweaters to Italian wool coats, everything is premium quality at a price that actually makes sense. Quince has something for everyone in the whole family. Soft Mongolian cashmere sweaters for $50 that look and feel like designer pieces, silk tops and skirts for dressing up, perfectly cut denim for everyday wear, and outerwear that actually keeps you warm. Their Italian wool coats are standout pieces, beautifully tailored, soft to the touch, and crafted to last for seasons. Every piece is made with premium materials from ethical, trusted factories and priced far below what other luxury brands charge. The craftsmanship shows in every detail. The stitching, the fit, the drape, it's elevated, timeless, and made to wear on repeat. There's so many good options that I can totally see myself grabbing a few of their cashmere pieces for friends, specifically the brush cashmere. I mean, but they have scarves, sweaters, all of it. And maybe I'm going to sneak in another brush cardigan for me. Find gifts so good you want to keep them with Quince. Go to quince.com/hrbesties for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/hrbesties to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/hrbesties.
When my podcast co hosts and I started HR Besties, it seemed like we had to figure out absolutely everything on our own. The scripts, the setup, the filming schedule, the logos, you name it. We had never done anything like this before. So it was super overwhelming, and every day seemed to introduce a new decision that needed an answer. That's how it is. Whenever you're starting off with something new, it just seems like your to do list keeps growing and growing every day with new tasks. While finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything can be such a game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e commerce in the US, from household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands just getting started, like mine. Turn your big business idea into With Shopify on your side, sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/HRBesties. Go to shopify.com/HRBesties. Shopify.com/HRBesties.
All things holiday in the workplace, do's and don'ts of the holiday party. So, Leigh, you want to kick us off?
Absolutely, I do. Because for the HR professionals out there, which I'm just going to make the assumption maybe is the majority of the crowd, who knows, right? You work in the space of people. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. But I think we have all had that experience with some sort of repercussions from a holiday party at work. I mean, like I'm not personally, I'm just saying, like with your workforce, right? Like we all have some stories to share. And so from a don't perspective, right? Just best practices is don't mandate attendance to your holiday events, right? Because then everyone's going to show up. And that means all those that don't behave within your workforce as well. Like, don't mandate it, don't pressure people to show up.
No.
There are some business I've worked at them before where it's like, you have to show up. You know, like the pressure from the boss or whatever. Everybody is different, right? There's neurodivergent folks out there. There's folks that are like extremely introverted, like myself. Oh my God, please do not mandate the Christmas party. Like if I feel like the vibe is good, like I'll be there. But if my vibe's off for that day, like I'm out, you know, but please do not base my promotion on whether or not I can spend another 5 hours with folks on my Saturday. You know what I mean? So please, like, don't. I think that's absolutely a don't. Don't mandate attendance to a holiday party. Are we in agreement on that one?
Agree. I think a lot of times too, HR is the people that have worked insanely hard to create the event, right?
Always.
So in a lot of my career, I've been an HR department of one. So probably I've been planning for months, weeks, you know, and so I have to be there and I'm busy. So I can't I can't even enjoy a glass of wine while I'm there because I'm running around making sure we have service awards or the boss knows the CEO speech or the drawing or the bonus or so it honestly, I've never had fun at a holiday party simply because it's usually a stressful event for me.
And can we not put it on HR?
Thank you.
Can we not put it on HR? I mean, because I've had to throw parties before myself, but what I did was I put a team together. Like I want representation from every function and make it like a team thing. So there's ownership and accountability with the business, you know? But man, it sucks always having to be the party planner. From an HR perspective.
It really isn't a skill set. Like if just because you happen to be, you know, masochists as we've talked about and take on and try to navigate those things, both the open enrollment, but also dealing with the people issues does not mean that you're necessarily good at talking to the people or showing up to the restaurant. And also the thing is, some people have kids and all of a sudden this night out, like the going rate, I don't know what happened in the pandemic, but the going rate for babysitters is quite significant. But Leigh, you want to flip us to the next do or don't?
Yes. Well, you know, one of the do's is that you should recognize that this isn't the happiest time of year for everybody, right? Like the three of us, we love the holidays, right? But for some, not so great. So again, I'm going to go back to don't mandate a holiday party. Don't believe everyone believes what you do, right? Really put that DEIB hat on, but just be cognizant of that some people are really, really suffering at this time and do not feel like a party. And not to sound grinchy, because I love a party and y'all know that. I do. Boy.
We've seen your stories.
I'm just glad like the internet wasn't really a thing like when I went to college. You know what I mean? Like I can't be president. I already know that. There's too much documentation, but thank God, like I'm not a student now because that would have been, oh my God, that's horrific. But yeah, I can't. There's no way I can be president. Sorry, I just had like a thought about that. But anyways, do keep your pants on. Do keep your shirt on because I've had both of those. Not me. I'm just saying.
Well,
no, not me. No, not me. Not
what
me.
about my hat?
And I'm just saying,
Yeehaw!
people get wild. They can, right?
They
And
sure
then there's
can.
always
At
after
free
parties.
alcohol.
So maybe a don't is don't attend the after party, especially if you're a leader.
Yes.
That might be good,
Yes.
because that's can come to bite you.
You don't tend to regret drinking too little or leaving too early. But on the flip side, the others that tend to lead to some things. I see James and
Yeah,
Jamie and
people
some
love to get
images.
loose. People love to get loose over the holidays.
Loosey
Any other
goosey.
do's and don'ts? Any other do's and don'ts? Just love to hear
Do
them.
recognize everyone's hard work for the year.
That's
Recognize your employees.
good. Appreciation, thankfulness.
Mhm.
I love it.
Well, and one thing with recognition is I've talked a lot to organizations that think about recognizing. Sometimes people hear recognition or they hear terms like that, and like people in business are like, "Oh, that's awkward. Like I don't know
Yeah.
what to do." So putting it in your language. Or one of the tools I talk about is like using ChatGPT. ChatGPT is not your diary and it's not an encyclopedia, so you don't want to put personal information in there. But if you're in leadership and we're saying recognize your team members, and you're thinking, how on earth do I do that? Do I do that? Going to ChatGPT to saying like, this is my general role, and what are like a few
Holiday
different ways.
year-end message.
I mean it, but like don't copy like
Well-
Luke would absolutely copy and paste that. But thinking about ways to put that, you don't have to be so formal, but doing it in the
Mhm.
ways that are authentic to you.
I love
I think it's
that.
important too about recognition is you should already know how your team wants to be recognized too. So for instance, I think that's something that you need to ask everyone on your team immediately to get to know them, because what if I do not want to be publicly recognized and then you called me out in front of a room full of 500 people? I would be
Mhm.
mortified, right?
Mhm.
But I do love it. But on the flip side, you know what I mean? There could be someone who wants to be publicly and you instead privately recognize them. So I think that's really important too, that sometimes it
Yeah.
really is a simple, hey, thank you for going the extra mile. But just make sure
Yeah.
you know what kind of recognition that your team wants to receive.
Yeah. No, I love that. And, to kind of segue, because this is all things holiday workplace, right? Besides just the holiday party, there's all the work events during work time, right? So the appreciation lunches, the team lunches, team dinners, the swag gifts, the potlucks,
Ugh.
like all the things. I know the secret Santas in the office.
Oh, I hate it.
Like all of the things, I'm already having a reaction to all of the things that are
I'm getting
happening.
itchy.
Yeah. Our thoughts on just all of those holiday activities in the workplace. For me personally, I love to celebrate. I really, really do. But what I have observed in my HR career is that I think that a lot of those activities make people more uncomfortable than they actually enjoy them. Does that make sense? Like, make that make sense. You know what I'm saying? Because so many people, especially even now versus earlier in my career, they have more boundaries with work. They try not to perhaps get too close to folks, or they stay professional or whatever, And so for them, even I just have folks that hate recognizing their birthdays at work. They don't even want people to know their
Yeah.
birthday month, right?
Right.
So like what's the boundary there, between team building and togetherness and belongingness, and then, doing all of these sorts of activities there. Like, how do we balance that in the workplace?
Jamie, you want to kick us off?
I would say, once again, that's one of the first questions that I typically ask, like intake, new hire, is do you want your birthday to be recognized? Dietary restrictions. This is just being, HR for the last 20 years. What kind of recognition? These are things that should be asked day one, actually before day one, before they even get in. So you as a manager knows what your team member needs, wants, and how you can react to that for anything, not just, team member dinners. But also too, like, I have young kids. I always feel guilty saying no to things like a night vent, and I shouldn't have to because I have young children. And so I think, once again, when we were 20, I'll go to a happy hour and I'll sling back a couple, but I can't do that now. I got to get home. I got to pick up kids. Daycare closes at a certain time. So it's just being mindful of your staff and who they are and kind of meeting them in the middle.
Yeah.
And having those events at work. I prefer to have events at work because you're getting paid
Mm-hmm.
to have said events,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're not being
Spoken like a true
voluntold.
extrovert.
You're not being voluntold to be, at happy hour down the street at 6 p.m. when daycare closes at 6 p.m.
Ho, 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 and happy holidays, besties. We here at HR Besties podcast wish you and your besties a very, very merry, happy, cheery end of 2025 and an even better 2026. Gosh, we need one, don't we? This is our year, which of course I've been saying for the last 10 years, but that's okay. Now, things are so busy over here with HR Besties podcast, that we are going to take a little break at the beginning of next year. Not to worry, there are tons of episodes out there for you to listen to on repeat, and we sure do appreciate it, don't we? They say it's good to be busy. I don't know who they are. But for me personally, I am, just knee deep, even maybe hip deep in editing my first book, back and forth with HarperCollins Business. It is getting there, and I am so thrilled and so excited. Passion project, labor of love, but we are getting this book to just the best state it can possibly be in for you all to help with your career success and even success in your personal lives. So I hope you enjoy that when that comes out. And ladies, what are you up to next year? It's going to be a busy one.
Happy holidays, besties. It's your girl, Jamie Jackson. I know Ashley mentioned we were unfortunately unable to get together with our conflicting schedules to actually provide you a new episode of all of us together. So you're getting us all like pieced together thanks to our amazing producer, Carly. But I really wanted to take a minute, really, just to thank you guys for being here the last year. It's been an incredible year for the HR Besties, and we really appreciate all your support. And cheers to 2026 and seeing what HR Besties can do. I really feel like this year we've made a huge difference disrupting the HR community, and it's kind of been incredible. I hope that we have made you feel less alone. I know that's why I created my meme pages like back in 2020. And I was so glad Ashley texted me back in 2023 and said, "Hey, would you want to do an HR podcast? Because I think it actually is needed." And HR is a really thankless job. And I don't think people realize what all HR can do for a company, and that we're not necessarily bad, we're just very villainized because sometimes we have to hold people to policies and standards. Like, sorry, but also not sorry. Anyway, I just really appreciate it. Keep liking and sharing our posts and commenting. It means the world to us. Where you can find me, as you guys know, I'm unemployed, and unfortunately, I've become unemployable. I have found applying for jobs during this time that no one wants to hire me because of my social media and my podcast. Hey, look, I get it. I get it. Stupid, but whatevs. Okay. So I am trying to do this social media thing full time. So, really, the best way to support me right now is following at the underscore chief meme officer on Instagram. And if you don't already, follow my meme pages. I have humorous resources, millennial misery, parody parenting. They can all be linked on any one of my accounts you go to. And also, I have merch. And you guys, the merch doesn't pay out a whole lot. However, it is a huge creative outlet for me. And I've so enjoyed creating new merch. And my merch is available in t-shirts, hoodies, hats, mugs, stickers, but that truly helps too. That link is on all my pages as well. And of course, hire me, like speaking engagements, please, because no one else will. I kid. But I love you guys lots. Thank you for being here. And here's to 2026.
I hope everyone can find some time to have a relaxing holidays. And thank you to those that are working in roles that support a lot of people or are open to the public on days when other people are off. That's not easy either, whether you're in HR or any sort of role. I'd love to say I'm going to have downtime, but I actually have my own book coming out in February of next year, February 2026. It's being published by Hay House, and it's called The Manager Method. You can go to @managermethod.com, my social media. You can pre-order it. We even have bulk orders. Feel free to send me a message if you're looking for a bulk order. Happy to connect you to make sure everything goes well. But I'm really excited for that to come out. So I've been doing a lot of work to start hopefully getting the buzz out. I'm still running my manager training business, Manager Method. We're growing and have all sorts of cool new things coming in 2026. So I'm really excited to keep growing that. I've loved working with organizations that come from HR Besties listeners. So feel free to come to managermethod.com and find information about the book. You can also find information about our leadership platform and all the cool new things that we have there. And I hope you do. Have a very relaxing holiday.
We cannot wait to share with you our special projects and all that we are working on. Definitely continue to follow HR Besties online and follow us all individually as well to keep up to date. Cheers and Happy New Year's.